All right, guys, looks like we just got a couple more people trickling in, so we will get started in the next 30 seconds or so. Just bear with us, please. Rightio, I think we are just about good to go. What do you reckon, Tian?
Yeah, looks like it.
All right, let's fire away. All right, guys. Good morning or afternoon, I guess, wherever you are located around Australia and New Zealand. Welcome to today's webinar around pain-free performance reviews. Now, I guess the reason why we're bringing this up at this time, as it is coming, you've got around about 8 weeks before you'd be generally starting to look at the sort of end of financial year performance review times. And, it being topical and important, we thought we'd, run through and start sharing some best practice tips, and advice on simplifying it, how it looks, why it's important to, I guess, keep records throughout the year around what the employees have been doing. So there's sort of no shocks when the performance reviews come around, making sure that there are, I guess, clear objectives and development that have been set and that will be set across the times when the performance reviews are started. And then I guess just some really good tips and insights on how we actually position and set up our performance reviews. And as I said, sort of simplify it. And then we'll actually show you, I guess, the process in which we actually do set it up, which I would encourage everyone to take some notes at that time. If you haven't done performance reviews in the past, I think you'll get some really, really good tips on ways to actually set it up and perform them through your company.
I think, Adam, just to kind of harp on that, is that financial year, end of financial year is approaching. It's usually the time when everyone can touch base, do that kind of salary expectations moving forward, business budgeting. So now's the time to really let's get familiarized with this. Let's have a think about what we need to do and put some plans in place.
Awesome. And on that note, so I'd like to introduce Tian. So Tian is our Senior Workplace Relations Consultant at HR Assured. So her role is looking after things like the telephone advice line. So answering, the important HR questions, handling audits, and doing up things like policies and contracts across the business. And my name is Adam Aliagic, and I am the Senior Business Development Manager at HR Assured. So I am part of the BD team who come up and help to find the right solution for businesses to assist them with outsourcing their HR and WHS management. So introducing our family to yours. So we've got the FCB group. So FCB group is, made up of quite a few different companies. So we've got Workplace Law, which is one of the oldest standing companies inside the business, around about 28 years, to Migration, to HR Assured, which is our outsourced HR and WHS solution for businesses. Then Enable HR, which is our award-winning HRIS platform. And then all the way to QMS, which is helps us with ISO certification. Excuse me. For those of you that aren't aware of what HR Assured does, so basically HR Assured is an outsourced HR and WHS service that is there to really, I guess, give peace of mind to businesses that all HR and WHS matters are handled compliantly and efficiently. And there's a few processes that are put in place to achieve this. So the first thing that we generally do would be a WHS or HR audit, which will review your contracts, your policies, your procedures, and then provide you with a report to show you where you guys are currently sitting from those perspectives, and then what needs to be fixed, and we help you through that process. Going on from there, we then provide you with a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week telephone advice line, which is where I mentioned someone like Tian would sit. And that would help you with things like bullying, harassment, awards interpretation, mental health in the workplace. Recently, when people were worried about getting vaccines and around COVID, you can give us a call and find out where you sit, what your obligations are as an employer. You get a ton of resources, so a big library of resources from policies to forms to letters and contracts and many more. We then provide you with the HRIS that I mentioned, which does actually provide you with HR and WHS solutions. So it would do the full employee life cycle. So managing from your pre-employment to your employee management all the way up to termination. So that's basically things like paperless onboarding, induction processes, poor performance reviews, poor performance meetings, and then also your offboarding and termination, as well as, really good record keeping, which is something we're going to talk about today around the performance reviews and how record keeping is very important. The WHS side is things like hazard, incident reporting, risk register reviews, and so on. And then finally, we do actually have insurance and representation for employment practice liability. So all that in a nutshell is there to provide a fully outsourced solution for your HR and WHS. So what are we going to cover in today's agenda? So first of all, we will be discovering the benefits of performance reviews for your people and your business. As I mentioned, why record keeping and performance reviews go hand in hand. Tian will touch on that a little bit. How performance reviews can boost employee experience and engagement. And then just simple steps to the best practice performance reviews and why it's worth your time. And with that simple steps as well, we can actually show you how we do it inside our software. So it's something you can either look at taking on through us, or I would highly recommend taking some notes at that stage, which you might be able to implement it, sort of take from what we provide. You can start to maybe put some of that into your business itself. And then we will actually be taking questions. So at the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A feature. So please, do not be shy. Anytime across the webinar, if you've got any questions, just tuck it into there. And we'll be sure to either answer them at the end. We will answer a few. And if we can't get to all of them, we will make sure that we do respond to you either via email or we can give you a buzz to actually answer it later at a later stage. Now, I will be handing this over to Tian to start tucking into how performance reviews can boost employee experience and engagement. So I'll pass it over to you, Tian.
Beautiful, thanks, Adam. So the next part that we're going to talk about is how performance reviews can boost employee experience and engagement. You will see at the bottom of some of these slides, we have a QR code. So this is for you to try our advice line for free. Just scan the QR code. It is important for me to notice that we don't have hundreds of these free sessions, so make sure that you get in quick. So common reasons for avoiding the performance review process, and I'm sure you've been in the situation before if you're a manager within the business and you can really relate to these, being time poor, having difficult discussions. It's never ideal. Nobody wants to have them. They can be viewed quite often as administrative tasks. So something that we don't really have to do. It's very basic. It can limit career options, or if within the business there's not many career options moving forward, people might see that there's no point to do a performance review process. If they like to provide performance reviews on the spot rather than in more of that sit down environment, relying solely on KPIs throughout the tenure, and salary increase expectations. It's really important as well, I think, to point out that you having these performance reviews with your employees, think of it as an investment. You want to know how your investment is going. You're putting a lot of money into salary or wages. So why not know how that money's going, how it's tracking, how are your employees feeling? Are you going to lose your investment, the time and money that you've put in to this? Or are you going to help it thrive? So a couple of things that you're missing out on if you're not going through the performance review process is the engagement, identifying flight risks. I think that's a massive thing that's just come out of the great resignation and people identifying what their true values are during the pandemic, performance reviews can be a really key area where you're identifying that, looking at succession planning. What is the direction that the business is going in? Do you know who's going to jump into a different position if you were to lose someone more senior? What are employees' career aspirations? Do they fit with the business? Can you align them to the business? If there are any gaps, you can identify the barriers to performance. So if maybe there's something that they need a bit more training, goal setting, and align their goals. It may be that your employee has goals that are similar to the business's, so why not align them? And looking at having that recognition and possibly remuneration as well. So there are benefits for both employees and employers when it comes to performance reviews. So I think it's really important to start off with that you're setting the goalpost for your employees. Without the goalpost, they don't know where they're aiming, they don't know where they're going, and it can be really unstructured. Employees will be more productive if they know what they need to do and how to do it. So really spelling it out for them. If they're also part of the journey, so if they're participating in those goals and the standards and they're being taken along for the ride and you're not just directing them, and that they know what they're being measured against and that it's going to be objective, and really opening up that two-way conversation so they can give you some feedback so it doesn't feel like it's all that one-way structure. So going through and doing things like career goals, salary reviews, training development, reward and recognition can be a part of this process. So it's a really important process, and can't stress this enough, to help manage your people, manage their performance. They're not a legal requirement. We do get that question quite a bit, but the regular performance reviews, they definitely benefit your business by helping you ensure that the employees are aware of your expectations. Like I said, you're really setting the goals for them and they know what's required in their role, how their work contributes to the organization. So what is it that they're putting in, and how is it that that's feeding out on the other side, and how is it that the business is getting benefits and outcomes from their performance, and how they're going with their targets. So really thinking about that bigger picture. It also really allows employers to be productive, identify issues early, like I said, bringing it back to the Great Resignation. We can identify all these concerns early. You can save time by using an employee self-service. I think that's really key for those who might be limited or might think that they're too time poor to do these or to do a performance review. And having a really clear clarity around KPIs and identifying those skill gaps early.
And we will give you some of these examples later on as well. So I will show you what this actually looks like too.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. So how important is record keeping throughout the performance review process and when managing the employee performance? So we're probably going to harp on about this all the time, about record keeping. And I'm sure Adam will go through it again with you later and make it very clear, if you get any message out of this, that
it'll be abundantly clear that record keeping is very important. Yes.
Yeah. So it is really important. So the purpose of these performance reviews is to discuss your performance expectations and objectives throughout the year. Key way to do this is to actually have records of what's occurred during the year, how the performance has been progressing, looking at the KPIs. Have the copies of the job descriptions with you. Does the employee know what they're meant to be doing? Was it clear from the start? Has that goalpost changed throughout? So it's really important to record all of these on the employee's file. So base it off the job description, the KPIs, as well as what you've discussed throughout. So you want to keep record of, have we discussed objectives? Have we discussed goals? What has been communicated and agreed upon? So a great example in regards to our cloud system is that it's able to record all the information in a centralized place so that the progress can be recorded and the records are maintained, which is really important when you get to this performance management process. So include all of the related conversations, communications. Has disciplinary action occurred? What is the evidence of that? Was there a warning issued? Was it not? And also another key thing that I think that people miss in this space is you want the good stuff, the feedback, the recognition. Is it that a couple of months ago that employee did a great job, you had that feedback, you gave them that immediate feedback, but bring it back to the performance review. Give them that feedback. I remember this is what you did great. Let's keep that going throughout. Link it to future performance.
And you can actually set notes and reminders inside a system that can actually then be brought up during the performance review, so you don't have to go back and check through it. It can actually remind you at the time of the performance review, which is also very useful.
Yeah, I think that's great as well, because again, you don't have to worry about being time poor or this being too overloaded. You can really go, okay, the system or a system is managing and helping managing this for me. I just need to input the information and it's going to guide me through the process. So we've got a couple of record keeping areas here of what you would keep on record. So the annual review, the individual goal setting. So what goals have we got, long-term, short-term, and any one-on-one conversations. So depending, different businesses have a different structure. You might have a one-on-one every month. You might have a one-on-one every 2 weeks or every couple of months. Keep record of that, even if it's a 5-minute conversation. Keep record. What were the key outcomes? What were the key notes? What were you starting? What were you stopping? So, and the next part is just take those milestones, like I said before, and cannot harp on enough, the positive things. And this can really come from the culture of the business. Is it positive? At the end of the day, are the employees walking out and they know that if they do something well or they do something good, that it's going to be recognized and it's going to be, they're going to be given that feedback and given that recognition. So I think with this one, we will be putting it back to you, Adam. So Adam, I'll be passing over to Adam now.
I will take it over for a second from here. So I'm going to be running through what does a best practice performance review look like. So I'll be talking through some points, and then there'll actually be some slides in the end that actually show how our system does do these performance reviews, which, I think you'll be able to take some photos of it if you like, or write down some notes. And as we said, you'll also be able to talk to us about using our system, which I think you would find very, very beneficial and time saving. So what does best practice performance review look like? Well, we're all about keeping it simple. So talking about who are we going to be reviewing, what's important from their performance criteria, how are we going to measure it, so on a rating scale, and what kind of KRAs and KPIs are going to be involved, and then we're going to rinse and repeat it. So the points of discussion during a performance review meeting. So it's all about giving feedback on how well they are doing, which what Tian was talking about. So areas going well and areas which could be improved. And I guess really focusing on them and giving them advice on how they can improve it. And then areas that are going well, how they can even increase that as well. Have there ever been any issues that have been affecting their performance? It might be something that's personal in their life that, as a manager, you need to sit down and have a chat with them and make sure that they're doing okay. It might be something, they might have some internal relationships that aren't going well, but it's about uncovering that, identifying it, and then helping them actually fix it. instead of just saying, oh, this is an issue and not doing anything about it. That's the whole point of these performance reviews, is to uncover it and then trying to find a solution together to work through it. Now, is there any training or development needs? Now, this might be something to do with, someone that's such as myself, that's a BDM that might be wanting to work their way up into management roles. What do they need to be doing in terms of training or development? Do they need to do a certain course? How are they going to improve to be able to get to where their goal is? A lot of people ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or even something small, like what's your 3-month plan? So discussing with them, finding out any training or development needs that they might have to either be better at their job or looking to get their promotion that they're looking for, which is, again, clips on that next section of, or what is their long-term goals and objectives. A lot of people do have a long-term goal. Not many people want to stay in the one spot. So it's uncovering where they want to get to. And then as your manager, it's your responsibility to help them get there and uncovering how they can do that. And the values and cultural alignment. So we're very serious about our values at HR Assured. So, every role is different. We all sort of work on the same values, but some are more important than others. One that I work really importantly with, being a BDM, is relationships matter. It is one of our values. So it's about, where does the employee sit against the values and culture of the company as well. And then, I guess, expectations versus reality. So the honest truth. So, where is the where is the employee seeing themselves sitting in the company, and where they're seeing them in their role, and how well they're achieving, to what the honest truth is to how they actually are doing. And, it's, as I said, it's not about berating them and having a go at them about how it's going, but it's about uncovering where they sit and then helping develop them to get to where they need to be, or also where they want to be.
Yeah, I think, Adam, on that it's the transparency, and that's really come from the past couple of years, is people are really wanting those transparent conversations to see if the business aligns with them. I think that's more important than ever.
Awesome. So brilliant. So moving on from there, how can you as an employer best prepare for a performance review process? So preparation is key. So Tiana did touch on this before as well. So review job requirements. So what's in their job description, making sure you're very clear on that, and making sure the employee is very clear on that as well. Review past performance reviews, so if applicable. So if they've done it in the past, always review it. I know that when me and my manager sit down to do our performance reviews, I've always looked at the ones from the past and sort of comparing to see what my objectives were from the last performance review to how I went with them and whether I did achieve them, and then setting new goals moving forward. So review the employee file notes on any poor performance, disciplinary or achievement. So again, as we mentioned, if you don't have the records, if they're not underneath an employee profile, if you haven't recorded a poor performance, if you haven't recorded any disciplinary actions, it might be something as simple as they might have just, not been punctual and been turning up late, every day for, a couple of weeks, and you had to sit down and have a chat with them. And then, you wanted to look at it later on, and then they've actually achieved and become better at that. And you can actually notice that through the notes. And again, but if there's also been any good achievements, make sure that that gets recognized inside the performance review as well. Seek feedback from any key stakeholders, so other managers, clients, or customers. Now, this one I do find quite important. One of the very first jobs that I ever had, from my very first performance review, one of the managers inside the company that I didn't report to, but was working closely with, sort of uncovered that I didn't have the best attention to detail, which my direct line manager hadn't actually seen. But through him talking to other managers inside the business, uncovered that, was able to raise it with me, and then made it something that I could focus on when I was very young, starting out in my work career, to make sure that I was improving on that. And one of the very first ones that I ever did. So getting, I guess, insights on how the employee is working with other departments inside the business is very important. Provide employees with a timeline and outline of the performance review process so that they know what to expect. So, not just, throwing them to the wind, giving them a timeline and outlining exactly what the process is going to be, so that they're aware of it, and I guess not left in the dark. So the best practice steps to performance reviews. So define setting up your KPIs and rating scale. Now, what we're sort of running through here is I will show you, as I mentioned, how it would look. So define setting up KPIs and a rating scale. Conduct, so managers and employees both to complete their reviews by inputting comments and ratings against the KPIs and objectives. 3, to finalize, so managers and employees to discuss the results. So it's not just, I think it's important to say discuss, so it's not so much the line managers telling them everything, it's about having a discussion back and forth about how the employees think they've gone against how the line manager thinks they've gone as well. And, optional to track goals, objectives for the next period too, and then report on it. So run reports to follow trends and check up on the performance progress. So this isn't something you set and forget. It's not like, all right, well, it's done now for the year and then let's look at it again in another 12 months or 6 months, depending how often you look at doing them. But it's about running the reports, follow up on the trends, and check up on the performance progress, every month, every fortnight, making sure that the employee is getting the support that they need to achieve the goals that you set. And if there are any issues, then being able to address them early. As I mentioned, we were going to show you how it looks. So there's a couple of slides coming up here where it actually demonstrates how our system sets it up. So this is how an HRA Cloud online performance review is sort of starts. So as you can see here, one of the first things that we look at doing is setting up KRAs, which stands for key result areas. Now, our system does come built with, I think there's about 26 already inside the system. As you can see there, just on the left-hand side here, sort of in the middle, adaptability, analytical thinking, assertiveness, attention to detail, and so on. So there is about 26 of them in there, as I said, but as you can see a little button there that says new key result area. You can also add your own KRAs at any time. And if you have a look a little bit further over to the right, you'll see how it is set out. So you get a code, you get a title, which is what the KRA is, so commercial awareness. And then there's a description. So the comprehension of the factors important to commercial success and business performance. So I don't think I'd be very good at that one, but that is one that's there. You can then set up a rating scale. We've got one as a standard 5-point that's set up, but you can set up as 1 to 3. It's entirely up to you. And then the key performance indicators, so your KPIs. So what the employee needs to be doing to be good at commercial awareness. So they need to demonstrate understandings of budgeting and basic financial management principles, recognize and suggest business opportunities, demonstrates concerns for cost control, and negotiates commercially advantageous terms. So you'll see there, that is how a KRA is set up inside our system, which you would then look at assigning the KRAs that are relevant to the role. You look at a role that would need commercial awareness, you assign that KRA to the role for their performance review. The next slide shows, as we were talking about, the rating scale. So here we have got one set up as a standard 5-point, from does not meet expectations to nearly meets to fully meets, often exceeds, and consistently exceeds. This is how we generally set up ours inside HR Assured. So if you look at something like fully meets expectations, that is actually an employee doing very well. So, it's not like you have to be at 5 consistently. So consistently exceeds is someone that is just going above and beyond. But fully meets expectation is someone that is doing their job to the very best of their ability and is achieving everything that they need to do. Again, it is entirely up to you. If you came on board with us and set up this system, it would be how you would, what would fit inside your company and your culture as to what as to what rating scale you would set up. And then it would come down to the employee. So this is what our ESS looks like, which stands for employee self-service. So what would happen is the employee would get a notification via email. So everything does happen via email, that they've got an action item inside their employee self-service. They would then click on that. It would bring them into here, and they would see there that they have got a self-assessment that needs to be completed. So the employee does a self-assessment, the line manager does an assessment as well, and then they come and meet after, which I think the next slide will show. So this is what it would look like, right? So the employee goes into it to do their self-assessment. They'll see that the first one that they need to do is adaptability. And if you look over to the right, you'll see all the KRAs that they have. So the first one would say key performance indicator. So do they react positively to change in the workplace? Do they change priorities when required? Do they adjust quickly to different work environments and so on? This employee, Dean Barker, seems very confident that he consistently exceeds expectations. And then, as you can see at the very bottom, he's going to give a justification as to why. You know, I think it'd be pretty unrealistic for an employee to rate themselves 5 and then not give a justification as to why they think they deserve that rating, which I think is really important. Basically, it gives the employee a chance to also voice why they think they deserve that rating. So when this does go to the line manager, it's not just a simple rating. It's like, all right, well, I did this, this, and this that I think gives me the ability to give myself a 5. You can also, sorry, yeah, that's good. So then HRA Cloud online performance review. Still, this is group performance reviews. So this is just if you're a line manager, you can see that they can actually review, you know, Harold as well as Joe. So this is where they're going to receive their group's performance reviews coming in. So the line manager can sit there and review them all. Now, this is what it would look like. So you can see that the line manager as well as the employee can both actually see the appraisals. So Dean's the line manager. Dean's the manager and James is the employee. So they've both actually agreed here that James does consistently exceed expectations for the attention to detail. And then again, as I mentioned before, the line manager will also be able to write comments too as to why they've given those, to justify why they've given that employee that rating. So it just gives them a really clear, I guess, voice as to what the employee thought they were doing, or how they were doing, sorry, how the line manager thought they were doing. They can sit down, have a discussion together. Ultimately, it does come down to the line manager's decision. So if the line manager's given a 3 and the employee's given himself a 5, it still will come down to the line manager at the very end to have the final say. So why automate your performance review process? So there's a few reasons here. So time and cost saving, you know, which do go hand in hand. If you're saving time anyway, you're also going to be saving cost. So there's a dollar factor that's important there. It does give you that easy reporting, so valuable business insights. And as I mentioned, so the reporting on your record keeping, so it would even save time there as well. Process automation, so consistency and transparency. And then again, the record keeping and then the historical notes of the employees across their employment through the company.
I think one thing as well, Adam, which is great about our system or a system, is it really helps those who might not know how to complete a performance review, and it helps steps it out. And you'd be surprised through, you know, some of the calls that we get with clients that there's almost a skill to filling it out. You can't just go off a blank piece of paper. You really need to be guided through it. So I think that that's what's really great about using a system.
Exactly. It kind of gives you a guide already. So I think that's great what you said there, like a blank sheet of paper. Imagine just having to start from scratch and going, all right, I need to start doing performance reviews and then just going from the day dot. It'd be very, very difficult, where this does really give you a very good guide. It is pretty much already all set out for you in there as well. So those KRAs are already in the system. The rating scales are there. And it's very, 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 very easy process to follow. So that is generally what we do suggest. So, you know, a 24/7 cloud-based access on any device. So you can actually access that on their mobile phone. So there's no excuse for the employee not to be doing it. Everyone's got a phone, so they could be sitting at home. If they said they didn't have the computer, they can still do it on their phone. It gives you a best practice of framework. It helps with setting goals and objectives, and then making it also very clear to the employee what those goals or objectives are. So at any stage, they can actually access what their goals are inside their employee self-service. The performance reviews are stored against the employee record, and everything outside of the formal process can be tracked as well. So, you know, across the employee's life cycle, every performance review will then be stored in there, and you can actually see their progression, which is good for them to see as well as the company. Gives a bit of flexibility. So design your own KRAs, which is what I spoke about. Keep ours as well, but you can also design your own. Set your own KPIs and rating scales to align with the language that resonates with your people and business, and the roles and goals and objectives inside the company. And then obviously save trees, go paperless. Which I think that brings us getting close towards the end here, but there's just something before we get to the questions, which I hope I can see some people have written some, but if you've thought of any now as well, please pop them in. But also we are going to offer, I think it's a limited amount. I think it's around about 20 to uncover workplace risks today. So you can book in a free HR health check, and it's valued at about $750. So what that includes is our workplace experts will call you and ask you a short series of questions of compliance that will uncover any risks in your business. When they say short, it really doesn't take too long. So it is around about probably 15 minutes of your time. You would then receive a really detailed report in your inbox after the assessment, which outlines how you can rectify any issues. So it uncovers them for you, and then we'll show you what you need to do to help rectify it. You get up to speed on workplace compliance. You'll know what to do if a risk is identified. It's fast and straightforward, as I said, and there really are no obligations. So, we understand people need something like this. We just thought it's something we could be happy to offer, especially people who are attending our webinar. So I think there's about 20 of them. So there's a limited offer. Now to look at your questions. So let me just quickly jump in here. So I think what I can do, I'll read them out to you, Tian, and obviously you're definitely the one qualified to answer them. So you're ready?
Yes.
So I think the first one here is how do performance reviews mitigate workplace risks?
I think, and I know I've probably said this a zillion times during this webinar, it's that early identification to start off with, and that's really a key risk mitigation, or even looking at potential risks. By having those conversations, you can see if there's maybe a flight risk, if there's a disengaged risk, if there's a maybe personnel issue that's occurring, you can identify that early. You can then address it there. So it might be that throughout those conversations, you're having a bit of a chat. You can see that someone appears to have a bit of an issue with another colleague. You can try to address that before it maybe got to that investigation. It maybe got through that formal complaint process. It really will give you an idea of the disengagement, and we'll find that disengaged employees are more likely to either make a mistake that could be at the detriment of the business's reputation, could make a mistake in terms of health and safety. So yeah, I think that would be the key risk mitigation areas.
Awesome. Question 2 that I got here. So what is the difference between a one-on-one meeting and a performance review, and are they necessary?
So like I said earlier, throughout, it's not, bound by law. It's not a legal requirement to do either. The difference is one is more of that ongoing quick conversation, more of a check-in, and sometimes the language around them, people do use them as a check-in meeting. The next one is really going to that deep dive into their whole performance, looking at maybe a year period or a 6 months. What are the areas that need to be improved? What's the training and development? I would say best practice is to do them both, because those one-on-one feed into the performance reviews. Otherwise, you're going to get to the performance review and you're going to have a year's worth of conversations or 6 months worth, and you've not had check-in times or touch base points that you can go from or collate.
Yeah, so basically, from what you're saying there, so what I see is you're going to get the best out of your employees if you're going to be going through this with them.
Yeah.
Now, third question, if you have to provide constructive criticism to an employee, what would be the best approach?
So transparency is key. but also thinking about the language that you're using. You want to keep it positive. And there's been quite a few conversations that I've had with clients where you tell them how to say something and they say, look, that was exactly what I said, but you made that sound so nice, or you positioned that in such a good way. So I think that's where, our team can be assisting, or it's really about how you phrasing this. So it doesn't mean that you can't give that constructive criticism. It's just, are you telling them that they sucked? Or are you saying that, that didn't hit the mark? This is how you can do it. We're going to guide you there because we think that you can get there.
Awesome. I think we've got time for a couple more. Let me just have a look. So is there anything we should avoid or not say in a performance review?
One key thing I would say is talking about other people's performance. So it might be within the business that comparison is a big thing in terms of, and that can get, depending on your role, if you are in that higher role, that management, it can be good to compare. But when you get into that individual, well, this person does this and you're comparing it, it can really offset and not put it in a nice tone. So it's about keeping it if I'm having a performance review with you, Adam, and let's say I was your manager, I'm talking about Adam. I'm not talking about Steve. I'm talking about Adam. If there's a great example of what your colleague's done, I can put that to you as an example, but not saying, oh, well, how amazing is Steve? You could say maybe, I'll get him to show you how he structures this, but I'm focusing on you. How are you going to improve? How are we going to get you there? And that time, I'm showing you that I'm giving this time to you, and I'm giving all my dedication, my feedback and everything. It's focused on actually putting that time and energy into you.
Awesome. And one final one, I think. Yep, we've got time for it. Okay. Is the performance review module a standard feature in HR assured software?
Oh, that's a good question. So yes, it is.
Perfect.
It's a standard feature and definitely one that I would say use. It's there, so use it.
Awesome. I think going by time now, that is just about us done. So really appreciate everyone coming along today. I hope it was beneficial and you've got some insights into sort of the best practice when it comes to handling performance reviews and an insight into a way to do it as well. I do believe we also are offering a free telephone advisory call. So at any stage, someone like Tian, if you have any issues that arise or you've got some questions, we're definitely there to answer as a free one-off call.
Yeah. And I think as well, Adam, there's a couple of questions that are still coming in.
Yep.
Which we will try to get to outside of the webinar. So we'll reach out to you and answer your questions.
We're not going to ignore you. We'll look at it and we'll try and get them done for you. All right, I think that's time. Again, thank you everyone for it. We'll log off now and everyone have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.